What's up, everyone? My name is Abby. I like to read, and my roommate is sleeping. So today I'm going to be talking about All the Stars and Teeth by Adalyn Grace. I finished this a day ago, 2 days ago, and I was pleasantly surprised. This is the February Owlcrate book. I got this in the box. I think the theme was The Power Within. And it really definitely goes along with this book. This was such a good book, and so I'm going to do a non-spoiler review, and then I'm going to spoil all of the stuff, and we're going to talk about it. So stay tuned for that. So just as a little summary, this book is about a girl named Amora Montara, and she is the daughter of the High Animancer, which is basically like the king of the nation. And so there are 7 islands in this world, and each one is based off of a different kind of magic. And so the people on this world, they can choose what magic they want to practice, and then they will go to that island to practice that specific magic. The Montaras are the only one that can practice soul magic, and so they're kind of the leaders. And what I thought was really cool about this was that they don't choose their leader based off of like who's the daughter, you know, next in line. You kind of have to prove yourself. And so on her 18th birthday, Amora has to do this test to prove that she can control her magic. And that's kind of where the story starts. Something goes wrong during her test and she ends up having to flee, and she meets this pirate named Bastian, and they basically just go on a journey to save their land. This book was full of magic and adventure and pirates, of course, and sea creatures, sea monsters. It was honestly really amazing. I ended up giving this book 9 out of 10 stars. I really enjoyed it. And one thing I really loved about it was the magic in here was so unique. I've never read anything like the type of magic that Amora practices in this book. And I just thought it was really unique and really cool. So if you are a fan of fantasy books, books with just lots of adventure and action and fun times, then I definitely recommend this book to you. So if you haven't read this book, go read it now because it is so good. And I am going to talk about some spoily stuff because I have a lot of things to talk about. I brought my notebook and we are going to talk about some stuff. So spoilers, warning, I'm gonna spoil, warning, okay, and go. So right away, I was a little bit suspicious about like the Kato story and the whole thing with just like, you can only practice one magic. That was always kind of like a little suspicious because I mean, people had been doing it before and all of a sudden like, oh, it's bad, we shouldn't do it. So I was kind of, you know, suspicious from the start. But I really loved the world building in this book. I thought it was pretty easy to understand. A lot of times books just kind of like when they have a new world, you kind of like get confused when you're trying to understand how everything works, but it was pretty simple to understand. I really liked how they could choose their own magic, so like they had the ability to do whatever, but they chose a certain magic and they would go learn that magic. The whole thing with her aunt was a little confusing though. So I know her cousin, when he was young, he accidentally chose magic, and that's, you know, that's what he chose, so he couldn't learn soul magic. But with her aunt, does that mean that she just hasn't practiced magic her whole life? Because she didn't really choose soul magic yet, because she was waiting to see if Amora would pass her test. But that means that she's gone her whole life without doing any magic, and that's kind of sad that she would have to wait to see if her niece would pass or fail, which I can understand why, you know, she's like, please pass your test, because she ended up choosing enchantment magic or whatever. So that was probably really stressful on her part. So I feel like if I had known Amora in real life, I probably would have been really annoyed by her. She was just so cocky, and she's like, everyone loves me, you know, my whole kingdom just thinks that I am the bomb, and I think that I am the bomb, and it's like, okay, please calm down a little bit. Have some humility. like, I love a confident girl, but there is a fine line between confident and just cocky, and I think she was definitely on the verge of a little too cocky. Especially because, you know, she ended up not being able to back it up. She lost control of her magic and she, like, tortured that dude. Not to say he was a nice guy or anything, but she, like, really went at it. Her magic, I thought, was so interesting and so unique, like I said before. So I thought it was just so cool that she didn't even need, like, that person's bones. She could just have any bones and, like, tie it to that person and then just, like, throw in the fire and then they would break. Which also brings me to Ferric. Okay, so at first I did not like Ferric. I thought he was annoying. He's just too fawning over her and wants to please her all the time. But at the end, I kind of liked him and I kind of felt more towards him than Bastian. And I don't think they should be together. I think that Amora should definitely be with Bastian. But I didn't really feel a huge connection with him. Like, we didn't learn too much about him, and he was just kind of there following her along. But Ferric, I don't know. I just found him kind of funny, especially during the battles, when she would be, like, doing her stuff and he'd be like, oh, hey, Amora, do you need me to, like, chop off a limb and I'll help you? He's just, like, chopping off limbs and giving them to her so she can fight. I don't know why I found that so funny. I didn't realize that he was a healer at first, and so whenever Bastian cut off his arm and he's like, well, that's annoying, and I was like, you just cut off your arm, bro, what's wrong? And then he can grow it back. But I just found it so hilarious that he was so willing to chop off his body parts just to help him more. But I do see something going on with him and, is it Vatea? Yeah, Vatea, the mermaid. I feel like they're gonna get together. They've already, like, hinted at them doing some stuff, so I feel like they're gonna end up together, which I'm glad. I do want Ferric to have someone to fawn over besides Amora. So I also thought the curse magic was really interesting. How you can curse someone's soul to an object or to someone else, and part of your soul is in them. Bastian couldn't leave his ship for very long, or else he would get sick because he was cursed and he was, like, bound to the ship. Which, honestly, it was kind of cool because it kind of made the ship like another character. Kind of like it had, like, a mind of its own, even though it was kind of based off of Bastian's soul. It just seemed really cool that it was able to kind of, like, you could sail it without a crew. The scene with Amora and Bastian climbing the ship's rigging, it really gave me vibes of, like, Triss and Four and Divergent when they were climbing the Ferris wheel, because, like, she slipped and, like, he, like, caught her and he's, like, holding on to her and he's like, I got you, you're fine. I was like, I love that scene in Divergent, so I was like, oh my gosh, it reminds me of that. A lot of the, like, twists and turns in the book were kind of obvious, like, at least hinted at. Like when Bastian was like, oh, I'm not gonna, you know, it would be a hypocrite for me to judge you off your family, you know, because of my family. And I don't understand why Amora was like, wait a minute, explain more. Because immediately I was like, oh, well, he must be related to Caven, because what else would that sentence mean that he would say that? So I was kind of like, Amora, why don't you question what he just said? Like, it's so obvious. And she didn't even question it. I felt like the action leading up to the ending, and the ending was just kind of rushed. Like, all of a sudden we figure out, you know, everything's a lie, and Kato was the bad guy. He didn't really save everyone. People can practice multiple magics, and, you know, now his bloodline is cursed, and that's what the Montaras are. And then she figures out the truth, and she goes back, and then she loses her magic all of a sudden, and immediately we're just back at Arita, and somehow Caven is already there with his army, which they were kept saying, oh, it'll be a while before he, you know, he has to heal, and then he'll bring his army. But no, they beat them there, which was, I found kind of confusing. And I feel like the whole battle scene at Arita was so rushed, and like I'm running out of pages, so I was like, oh my gosh, it's gonna end on a cliffhanger. And I kind of wish that it did end on a cliffhanger, because it seemed like it just wrapped up way too nicely. Like, it was a twist that her father was bound to Caven, and so they couldn't kill Caven, but then, you know, her father killed himself so they could kill Caven, and they killed him very easily. I feel like it should have been a little harder to do that. And then it just kind of jumped to everything's okay. You know, I feel like the resolution was just too resolved. I need a little more conflict to make me want more. Like, I mean, you could have ended the series there and not had a second book. I mean, I guess you do have the loose end of now Amora is bound to Bastian. He has her like soul magic, and so therefore he has the curse. But everything else just kind of resolved. Like, she's telling people, oh, you can now practice multiple magics, and you know, Zudo is now reuniting with all the islands, and it just seemed too happy. I guess I'm used to books where it's not happy and things don't go to plan, and so I'm kind of used to that, and I just wish that something else would make us want to read the next book more, because obviously something is going to have to go terribly wrong if we're going to need a whole other second book. So that was probably the only thing that I was kind of not enjoying with the book, just the ending just being too nice, too rushed, because it all happened within the span of like 20 to 30 pages, which I don't think is enough for an ending. But I am really interested to see how Amora is going to unbind her soul with Bastian, because I feel like you'd think killing Caven would kind of remove all of his curses. So I don't know why she's still bound to him. I don't understand how she's gonna undo that. So I guess that will be the, you know, the next storyline of the next book. But I am gonna pick it up. I definitely really enjoyed this book. Like I said, I gave it 9 out of 10 stars, which is like the second time I've done this year. Like, I really, really enjoyed the book. And this is Adalyn Grace's debut novel. So, you know, for a first book, that's pretty dang good. So yeah, those are my thoughts on All the Stars and Teeth by Adalyn Grace. In the comments down below, let me know what your favorite sea creature is, mythical or in real life. I love the mermaids in this book. I think Matea was like super cool, like super powerful. I think we're definitely going to see more of that in the next book. So thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Comment some stuff, I don't know. Subscribe. I'm tired. I'm very sleep deprived. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye guys. I use my hands just way too much. I'm so sorry guys. I'm just like talking like this.
Still sweaty, by the way.